if we don't know who we are, how can we truly define what we're truly looking for?
What happens is when it doesn't hurt anymore, we think we're healed.
Yeah, this is what I'm looking for. This is the goal, right?
Yeah.
And on the subconscious level, the 95% of our behavior, that's the part of us that draws us to who we are attracted to. We delete, distort, and generalize information. We see what we see. Think about all this data is coming to us every second, and we only see what we want to see. That's why when a person first get into a relationship, you only see what you're looking to see. You're looking to see all those great things. And
I describe a relationship that is safe, meaning that it is secure, it is affirming, it is fruitful, and it is empowering. So follow the fruit and not your feelings. And I get that there is a verse in the Bible that says you'll know a tree by the fruit that it produces, right?
Right.
So being single in the dating season, is understanding who you are. How do you feel loved? What's missing in your life? How do you feel fulfilled? What do you love to do?
Marriage is marriage. Marriage is work. Marriage is something you have to show up for every day. And marriage is something that you have to kind of renew.
Let me remind you that you were made for love and that all of us deserve love.
This is Curtis McCullom with the Curtis McCullom Show, where we delve into the mindset of top CEOs and entrepreneurs and founders to share with you what it takes to be and become the best version of yourself. Bespoke Human Potential Coaching sponsors this show. Bespoke helps CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs around the world to eliminate those blind spots they've been kind of dragging around since childhood. Those blocks that they have been keeping them from actually reaching their full potential. So if you feel like you're a little stuck or like something is kind of holding you back, don't wait. Please schedule a free clarity call with me today using the link below. And let's uncover what's actually standing in your way and get you moving forward. By the way, if you're enjoying this show, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a great review for us. We appreciate that. Your support helps us reach more people who are ready to transform their lives. Today in the studio, I have April Nowlin, great coach, wonderful young lady that I got to meet the other day, and kind of we just shared some great conversation. Now, April, she's a certified life breakthrough coach. She specializes in divorce, recovery, and healthy relationships. All of us need healthy relationships. So there should be some good stuff here. And she's dedicated to helping women heal from heartbreak and build a life they love. April, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
And now it's my pleasure to have you with us today, April. You shared a lot with me the other day, and I really appreciate that. In your journey, as coaches and as individuals, we all have this journey that we've gone on and been on. And I know I've had my journey and going through some stuff, and now I can share with the world. So kind of share with the world a little bit about your journey, now how you became who you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in the Midwest, so Midwest girl, but then also grew up military. So I've had the honor to travel to beautiful places, live in different places and whatnot. A little kind of special thing about me, I guess, or a little thing about me. I was always that kid that couldn't figure out like where I fit in, right? So you guys may be able to relate to that. Like, where do I fit in? What do I do? But, 30 years later, I found out that where I fit was in business. And so I started this coaching company 11 years ago, doing business coaching, helping entrepreneurs and faith-based organizations to create sustainable marketing practices. And then 5 years ago, life took a detour. So many of you guys may be familiar with that. But 5 years ago, I went through my third divorce.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, we've been on this journey for a while. I need to figure out what's going on. And I know we'll dive into this, Curtis. But that's how I started my current coaching practice. Was I wanted to help people that look like me. I wanted to help people that sounded like me. Those people who said, I've gone through this trauma of heartbreak and I don't know what to do. And so that's the journey how I got here today. Is I essentially turned a very painful, devastating thing in my life and used that to fuel my purpose.
And that's what, a lot of us go through things that our greatest learnings, we now able to share it with the world because now we've gone through it. And as I said before, I used to say, like, I got the T-shirt, I've experienced it. And so I know and understand that. So, but what has that journey been like for you? I know you said 5 years ago that was kind of the breaking point. Was there something that truly, I know we had COVID. What else happened in that time that you like, okay, this is it. Something has to change.
What's funny? I don't know that there was this one defining moment outside of this divorce was the one that hurt. And I know every divorce hurts, right? Like
Right.
they're devastating. But my first divorce, we agreed that our marriage was over. So we were actually friends at the divorce hearing, right? We were joking around. We were friends. The second one was my choice. So I knew that my daughter's father and we just weren't going to last. And
Right.
so I made that decision when my daughter was 6 months old. This third one, this is the one where I thought I got it right this time. I did all the things that people said that you do to make sure that you've got this, great relationship. And I was blindsided. So that was the one that caught me off guard. That was the one that shook my foundation. But outside of that, this was the one where I had a 10-year-old daughter. And I had to ask myself, what example am I going to set for her through future relationships? So she had never known me and her father being together, but she saw this relationship fall apart. And I went, man, like I can't do this anymore. But the key thing for me was that I realized it was a pattern. I had gotten divorced at 21, at 31, and 41. Right. And something in me was like, wait a minute, this is a cycle. This is more than just you picked the wrong guy. This was for whatever reason you continue to pick the wrong guy. So I guess my defining moment really was this was the one, like I said, that hurt the most. This was the one that was really traumatic. And I had to take a step back and understand, how do I never end up in this place again?
That's a powerful statement. Now, it's interesting, like you said before, every 10 years, something happened in these relationships. So now because that's part of what I do. I was like, okay, what is it? What is the commonality in these 10 years? What is it that's driving that behavior? What is it that you're thinking or seeing and feeling that causes that to happen? Now, did you pinpoint what that thing was? Bespoke Human Potential Coaching sponsors this show. Bespoke helps CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs get rid of those blind spots that they've been carrying around since childhood. So if you're stuck and have some blocks, click the link below for your clarity call or scan the QR code if you're on video. Let's get rid of those blind spots. Now back to the interview.
I did pinpoint the cycle, and that took some time and some discovery. But for a lot of us, when we end a relationship, when there's a trauma that happens, and I do believe that heartbreak is a trauma,
okay,
we go on a healing journey the best that we know. So for me, it was those first couple years, I'm going to build myself up. I'm going to repair, my credit. I'm going to get myself financially, in a good place and physically. So I would do those things that would start the healing journey. Okay. But then about 3 years in, the loneliness would kick in. Right? I'm seeing other people in relationships, or people would tell me, well, you're almost 30, you should be married, or, you're moving up the corporate ladder. Why are you still single? And then those things that I had not dealt with from my childhood would creep back in. Yes. And I say it like this: many times when we are healing, whether it's from heartbreak or, some sort of trauma, what happens is when it doesn't hurt anymore, we think we're healed.
Yes.
So I'd go on those couple for, those few years, and it's like, oh, it doesn't hurt anymore. I'm not mad at him anymore. I've moved on, so I must be better. But what happened was...
let me just interject right there. Hold your thought, though. Hold that thought. I mean, because that's important for the audience to understand what's happening right now. That's what we call, in my world, it's a move away goal. A move away from goal, meaning like as soon as the pain, you get far enough from the pain stops being painful, and then the behavior starts all over again.
Correct.
And it goes over and over. So basically, think about moving away from is I've moved away from the pain. Now I'm feeling okay with myself. I'm not healed yet, but I'm feeling far enough from it that I don't feel the pain anymore. And I continue the behavior. And I continue what you were saying.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right, right? We get out of danger and we start to feel safe.
Right.
But we don't understand how we got into danger in the first place. And that's where I was at, right? I felt like, oh, I'm okay. And I would tell myself things like, oh, if I just didn't pick what I had before, then next time's going to be better. Okay. And then I would have a community tell me, well, you just need to pick differently. You just need to learn how to be a better wife. You need to pick a better husband. But there wasn't this conversation about, well, girl, why do you keep picking the same thing? And so these opportunities would come where I would meet someone and those same things that I was lacking as a child. For me, it was rejection. It was not feeling loved. Then I would meet someone and all of a sudden, but they're not rejecting me and they love me, right? Yeah. So this must be a great fit. So I would get married. We'd be married a couple years, get divorced, and the cycle would start. And to your point, the analogy I love to use, so my daughter plays basketball, and 2 years ago, she tore her ACL. In the moment, it was this very traumatic incident that happened. Yeah. Her knee was swollen, she couldn't walk. But about 2 weeks later, the swelling was gone. She could walk on it. But here's the thing, had she not had surgery, and she tried to play basketball again, she would have done more damage. Yes. But for her, it was like, well, it doesn't hurt and it's not swollen and I can walk on it. And that is the way we treat our heartache sometimes. That is the way we treat a failed relationship and heartbreak is, but it doesn't hurt anymore. And I'm not affected when he calls. So I must be okay. And we're not.
When you're thinking about that on a psychological level, thinking about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, right? On the conscious level, you understand that this is what I'm looking for. This is the goal, right? Yeah. And on the subconscious level, the 95% of our behavior, that's the part of us that draws us to who we are attracted to. Good or bad or different, it doesn't really matter. The subconscious mind knows what it likes, and it always draws us to that which we like or we feel comfortable with. So you think about your relationships. One relationship, same guy, different face, different name. Second relationship, same guy, different name. And the third one, because you were still attracted to that which was filling a void within you that you needed to heal in order for you to now change the way you see the person you're attracted to. If that makes any sense,
that is absolutely spot on. One of the things I learned on this journey is we will subconsciously try to fill whatever's missing in our life. Someone asked me recently, what was the defining moment with my third husband? Like, what was that moment that I said, yeah, this is the one? Okay. So I was a single parent. My daughter was, I think, 4 when he and I started dating. And he had come over one day for dinner in our dating process. And I was really frustrated. I had a long day at work, really frustrated. And he stopped and he asked me and he said, what do you need? And I said, well, my daughter needs dinner. You know, she needs like whatever little homework they do at 4 or 5. I need to clean, I need to do all these things. And he said, well, hey, he said, why don't you go take 30 minutes to yourself and I'll take care of these things. And I remember after that hour that I took to myself, coming out and my daughter had been fed. They were like watching cartoons. And in that moment, I said, this is it. This is what I need. Now, mind you, I had already seen things in him that I was questioning. But it was because he met that need in the moment, right? Right. That I was like, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. And so in a lot of cases, what we're doing with these relationships is we are subconsciously filling those voids. So did I need that help? Absolutely, as a single parent. But because that shone so brightly in the moment, I discarded a lot of the other things I had seen.
Yeah. Basically, what we call that in my world is like in the neurolinguistic world is we delete, distort, and generalize information. We see what we see. Think about all this data is coming to us every second, and we only see what we want to see. That's why when a person first get into a relationship, you only see what you're looking to see. You're looking to
Yes.
see all those great things, and oh my God, oh, he loves me, I love him too. Oh, look at me, he likes movies, I like movies too, and all this other stuff
Right.
that we distort and we generalize and we black out until. Now, how long in the relationship when all that other stuff really started to come up where you says, oh shit, this is not the right guy?
Yeah, unfortunately, we were already married when that happened. But here's the thing, Curtis, to your point, I feel like we see things before.
Yes, you
In
do.
my first two marriages, I remember walking down the aisle, and regardless, listeners, if you believe in God, universe, or whatever, I felt like God was telling me, don't do this. Like walking down the aisle. And I remember one of my best friends, she was like, you were crying. And I was like, I was crying because God was like, don't do this. And then the second time, crazy enough, his mom actually took me to lunch and she was like, my son is not ready. And I was like, but he loves me. And, all these different things. And so I remember going through my third divorce, and I remember telling God, I was like, I'm mad at you. Don't talk to me. I'm not talking to you. Like, this is how I talk to God, y'all. Like, this is how I talk to him, right?
Like a friend.
Like a friend. And I was like, you could have stopped this and you did nothing. And I remember just this voice saying, well, I told you the first two times and you didn't listen. So here we are.
Here we are. That's so funny you would say that. I mean, because I'm on my second marriage, and my first marriage was, I knew, it's like, when something is not good for you. We know that, but consciously we know that. I mean, one of the most difficult things for a person to do and stop doing is smoking, even though they know consciously on the pack of the cigarettes, it says, it's going to kill you. Don't do it. And even though we know that on a subconscious level, if we have baggage that needs to be healed, it's going to override the known of the conscious level of not to do this.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. Like you said, I knew it, but then I still move forward anyway. So that's just wow. That's the power of it. So now where you are now, as far as you moving forward now, what do you share with individuals to kind of get them moving? Bespoke Human Potential Coaching sponsors this show. Bespoke helps CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs get rid of those blind spots that they've been carrying around since childhood. So if you're stuck and have some blocks, click the link below for your clarity call or scan the QR code if you're on video. Let's get rid of those blind spots. Now back to the interview.
Yeah. The biggest thing that I share with people that I coach, that you'll hear me talk about, as a relationship coach, the first thing we think about are those intimate relationships. When you hear relationship coach, right? Those romantic relationships. But I really advocate for people to develop a wonderful relationship with themselves.
Okay.
And I feel like that is so key. Being single in the dating season, is understanding who you are. How do you feel loved? What's missing in your life? How do you feel fulfilled? What do you love to do? Many of my clients, when we first start working together, the first thing I ask them is, what do you like to do? Who are you? And the most common answer I get, I don't know. Right? I don't know. And so that is where we always start, is what is your relationship with yourself?
Okay.
How do you see yourself? Yeah.
I think that's powerful, a place to start, because of the fact that, once again, if we don't know who we are, how can we truly define what we're truly looking for? I know sometimes when I'm asking my clients, what do they want? The first thing they tell me is what they don't want. This is what I don't want, or this is who I'm not. So all the nots and not really being able to communicate with themselves of what they truly want. So now understanding you and understanding your tendencies. I think we mentioned like the runaway bride in the movie The Runaway Bride, is that she didn't even know what type of ex she liked because she morphed to that person, whoever she was around. So I guess that's kind of what you're sharing right now.
Absolutely. When we don't know who we are, we let everyone shape our identity.
Okay.
And that even goes back to knowing your purpose, knowing what you love to do. So for example, I'm an entrepreneur.
Right.
I've always been, I didn't realize that's how I was in my 30s, why I thought differently than many of my family members and things like that. I'm an entrepreneur by heart. And so me being married to someone who's like, I want to stay at home wife, that that might not work for me because that's not who I am. Right.
Right.
And not to say that you can't make things like that work, but what I'm saying is understanding who you are. It's like the person who says, I want to marry a doctor.
Right.
Well, a doctor's gone all the time.
All the
So if you
time.
want to marry a doctor, you're going to understand that life of being married to a doctor. And so you're absolutely right. Is really understanding who we are, where we come from, what shaped us into who we are. That's a big one too that we don't talk about is
Right.
how did we begin to think the way we think now about ourselves, about the world, and whether that was family or media or culture or community, all of those things had an impact on who we are, but really
Yes.
understanding who we are.
I mean that's so true. I mean, because when you're talking to individuals, understanding that they are made up of these beliefs, the values, the time, space, and matter, and all these things, and believe it or not, most of it came from the ages of 0 and 7, and so some of it we've all forgotten. These beliefs that were programmed when we were small. So really going back to really truly understanding our true values, who we are, our core values that drives our behavior is so important. So I can see that how important that is to an individual. So once you get them to understand who they are and what shapes them, then what will be your next step with that?
The next step, and this is something that you just said that I think is so profound. In many of all of my relationships up until recently,
Right.
I couldn't tell you what I wanted. So you mentioned that, right? I could
Right.
always tell you what I didn't want. I didn't want you to hit me. I didn't want, I couldn't tell you what a healthy relationship looks like.
Right.
And so that next step is we really discover what does a healthy relationship look like, right? Through their eyes.
Yes.
Because we can't, I use it as like, if you're going to go to New York, right? You put that in your GPS. New York is going to say, your GPS is going to say, well, you want to go to New York, but where are you starting from? And so I need to understand what does a healthy relationship even look like to you? And the way that I describe a healthy relationship is I describe a relationship that is safe, meaning
Right.
that it is secure, it is affirming, it is fruitful, and it is empowering. So that leaves enough room for a person to say, okay, let me shape the details of what a healthy relationship looks like, but gives them a starting point. So we figure out, where now do you want to go? What does
Right.
that look like?
Okay, so you think about it. Let's kind of back up and kind of really delve into that a little bit more. So you're saying that's the framework you use is understanding what's safe, and that's basically say that 4 things again so the audience can really get them.
Absolutely. So it is secure,
Secure,
it is affirming, it is fruitful, and it is empowering.
empowering. So now we got this acronym for being safe, secure, affirming, fruitful, and empowering. So now, in knowing that too, that everybody's different, meaning like everybody's model of the world is different. Now, how will that now more for me? I mean, if me and you were
Absolutely.
coaching, how would that look for me? Because obviously, secure, affirming, fruitful, and empowering is a lot. So then, is there something else that you would do to kind of say, okay, Curtis, what does that mean to you?
Yes. So now we talk about what makes you feel secure in a relationship.
Right.
For some people, it might be that my partner is financially stable. It may be a emotional safeness. It always should be a security of the fact that you're going to respect me physically, right? So it's really now breaking down, when do you feel secure in a relationship? We talk about like the 5 love languages, right? Which I truly
Right.
believe in that, and or other methodologies that are similar, that we each have like these different ways that we feel safe or loved. And so what is the secure, right?
Right.
Affirmed. What makes you feel affirmed? Is it your partner diligently listening to you? Is it your partner repeating back to you? Is it your partner supporting your goals? What does that look like to you? And I try to get them to actually name it so
Right.
that when it happens, they're very clear, right? Fruitful. So I have this saying, follow the fruit and not your feelings. And I get that there is a verse in the Bible that says you'll know a tree by the fruit that it produces, right?
Right. Right.
So here's the thing. If a person is telling you that they're an apple tree, but all you see is oranges, you might need to, right? So when I mean fruitful, is it uplifting you? Or is it every time you see this person, you're like, oh, here we go again, right?
Right.
Is it supporting you? Is it bringing you joy? Now, we all know that every relationship has its ups and downs, but we're talking about just in a general sense, right?
Right.
I'm sure you've met those couples where you're like, man, y'all are miserable. Why are you together? Right? So what is the fruit that this relationship is producing? And then is it empowering? Can you set boundaries and that person uphold those boundaries? Is that person supporting your dreams? Can you support their dreams? Are they empowering you to grow and continue to become the person that you need to be? And so with each client, obviously we dig deeper, but like I said, it's broad enough to give you a sense of healthy relationship.
Right.
But each one then narrows down to determine what does this relationship look like to you. So, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. So what I'm saying is it may be now we get down to the nuts and bolts of like, okay, I want a woman who's going to cook every day at 5, right? You might not be the woman who cooks at all. So what does that look like to you? Right? Or I want a man who can fix things. Your man may not be able to fix things. Can he call a plumber? Right? What does that look like to you? And so those are the things that I feel like we miss growing up. Right? What does a healthy relationship really look like to us?
Right.
So that we know it when we see it.
Well, I think a couple of things you said before is that then what I look at, what are deal breakers? Like some things it's important, but it's not so important where that's just going to look, I don't want to play anymore. This is something a deal breaker.
Absolutely.
Some things are deal breakers in some situations. And then sometimes things are deal breakers to people outside of us, and they feed us like this is a deal breaker. If this ever happened to me, I'm going to dump the relation. Well, first of all, you don't know what you're going to do when you're in a situation until you're in that situation. And so what I'm saying is that, when you're defining that, because it's so important, is that what is it that's going to be a deal breaker? Meaning, like you said before, okay, I'm looking for someone that's a handy person. Is that a deal breaker? Is that a deal breaker that he's not handy, or is it if he can call somebody to do that, is that okay too? Is that
right? And we talked about this when we first chatted, but I think it also challenges what a relationship is supposed to be, the norms, right? So we talked about, I think I shared with you the story of my grandparents having separate bedrooms.
Right.
And I feel like my grandparents had a wonderful, wonderful relationship. But then I met someone whose parents had separate bedrooms, and their parents had separate bedrooms due to infidelity.
Right.
So now my safe could be separate bedrooms, and I'm okay with that, right?
Right.
Their unsafe could be separate bedrooms. And that's why we talk about these things.
I mean, that's so important. Like, we did mention that. I was telling you, like, part of when I got married the second time was like we made rules. And one of the rules were that we were not going to leave the bedroom, meaning like that was part of the rules that we kind of abided by, because I felt like if I ever leave the bedroom, even go to the couch because I'm upset, Now I might go to the couch because I'm, not feeling well or not want to wake her up or something like that nature. But if we're upset with each other, we're not going to leave the bedroom. We're not going to leave the bedroom and go to another bedroom. We're not going to leave the bedroom and say, you know what, I'm so upset now, I got to go to mom's house or dad, whatever. We made a decision that was not going to be a part of the make up our relationship. Right. And that worked for us. So that's kind of one of the rules is that's kind of what we did. Now, when you talk about being safe and what does that look like to you? And I think that's something you have to kind of agree with, right? I mean, with the partner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that I advocate for is a lot of times we wait until we are engaged to go to like premarital counseling, things like that.
Okay.
And I feel like that's too late to go to counseling.
Okay.
I feel like that when we are at that point of saying this person is a potential life partner, this is where I feel like we need to, whether it's therapy, counseling, coaching, whatever, so that we can talk about those things that we believe, like you said, might be rules or non-negotiables. And is it really a non-negotiable?
Right.
When I talk to my clients and they show me their list that has 73 items on them, I'm like, what? One of the things that I do is I have them look at really a couple areas, and two meaning non-negotiables and desirables should fall into whether it's two categories, I believe, character and lifestyle.
Okay.
And I think that if you can find someone that aligns with character, lifestyle, core values, then those other things you guys can work through, right? So like you said, you and your wife said, okay, our agreement is that we're not leaving the bed. Right? That your characters were probably still aligned, lifestyle aligned, core values aligned.
Right.
And so it's really having those sometimes challenging conversations to say, right, I grew up this way and this is what I believe. I grew up this way and this is what I believe. Where can we meet in the middle? That is not a non-negotiable, right? Non-negotiables, yeah, stick to those. Don't compromise on those.
Right. Like one of the things that early on in our marriage where we decided, hey, this is not going to work is the toothpaste. I mean, something as simple as toothpaste. I mean, it's like the way she was squeezing her toothpaste and the way I squeezed my toothpaste was two different things. I'm like, look, we can solve this. You have your own toothpaste and I have my own, and we won't ever have this problem because this can be a problem for me.
Yes, but you said something so powerful that I think we don't embrace enough is being able to shape our own healthy relationship, right?
Right.
So back to, you could have a couple who, was taught and believed that you don't divide anything, you don't,
Right.
And I'm with you. If I don't like even the brand that you use, why do we have to share? Right? Do what works to create the safe relationship and that, I think that is really key what you said, because that was a step that you guys took to make sure your relationship stayed safe.
Yes.
Right? The both of you being able to say, I don't like the way you do this and I don't like the way you do this. How can we figure that out? Yeah. And the end result is two different toothpaste. I'm on board.
It's so funny though. It's like, and this is the thing about it. I mean, even for the listeners, I've been married for 34 years. And has it been easy? No. Marriage is marriage. Marriage is work. Marriage is something you have to show up for every day. And marriage is something that you have to kind of renew. For her to put up with me for 34 years, I'm telling you, I have to renew it almost every day because every time I mess up and do something silly, that's what happens in life. So what I'm saying is that, but we made a decision. This is key too. We made a decision that we were going to make it work regardless. When we first because she had been married once, I had been married once. We made a decision like, okay, we're going to make this thing work. Hell or high water, we're going to make it work. And then I noticed that 2 or 3 years ago, after 30 years, I'm like, I didn't know that I was showing up the way I was showing up in a relationship. And so I needed to do some more work on myself to show up better for her. So I think with the audience, they have to understand in relationships, there's a give and take, and there's sometimes you need to do a little extra something to make sure it still works. Is that, you agree with that or disagree?
Absolutely agree with that. I think that relationships, like anything else in life, go through seasons.
Right.
And I believe that a relationship should be 100%. But that does not mean that each of you can give, if you put it that way, 50% all the time, right? There may be seasons where one person can give 30, the other person is doing 70. There may be seasons where one is 60-40. There may be, relationships have seasons. My parents, at the time of this recording, my parents have been married for 46 years. And I believe they have a great relationship that they have developed into what their safe, healthy relationship looks like. Right. And so I remember talking to my mom a few years ago, and I was like, do you ever get comfortable, I guess, right? Like comfortable with dad. And she goes, April, she said, the funny thing is, she said, after all these years, and I think I know your father, he will wake up and I'll be like, who is this person? Like, what? Where did this come from? And vice versa, because we should always be evolving and growing independently and together. And so to your point, absolutely, relationships are going to have ups and downs. The question is, how do we prepare for those ups and those downs? And like you said, making the commitment to say, we're going to fight. And that's the thing, when I share my story of being divorced 3 times, I do not wear it as a badge of honor, you guys. I am pro-marriage. I believe in marriage. I want a wonderful marriage. Now, I do believe that divorce can be an answered prayer for some. But, I believe in strong marriages, and you're absolutely right. You have to make the choice every single day that I am going to honor my commitments and I am going to support my spouse no matter what it looks like today.
Well, April, how can people get in touch with you? I mean, all this great information you've been sharing with us today, how can they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So you can go to aprilnowlin.com. Just Google my name. All my social platforms are April Nowlin. And so out there, you'll find resources. I just released a new podcast called When Love Comes, and we talk about the different journeys that people take from heartbreak to finding healthy love. There's a few older podcasts out there you can listen to. I've got ebooks. I've got a book out there. So there's plenty of resources to help you guys to define, find, and maintain healthy relationships.
Beautiful, beautiful. So now, April, what would you like to leave with the audience today? I mean, you've given us so much, this acronym for SAFE. Anything else you just like to leave with us today?
I always like to remind people, whether they're single, married, on the crazy journey of relationships, dating, is that everybody, I believe, was made for love. And that starts with the love you give yourself and then extends to the love that others give you. But if you're someone who's listening and you're like, I don't even know about a healthy relationship, I don't know, what that looks like, I don't even know if I deserve one. Let me remind you that you were made for love and that all of us deserve love.
Beautiful. I totally agree with that. I think on the spiritual side, if you're a Christian, it's like, God is love and love is through us and in us and all those beautiful things. And I think it's so important. And I think he also said, in order for you to love your neighbor, you need to love yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's sometimes the most difficult things to do is to learn how to love ourselves. I think you mentioned that early in the session here, that we need to be able to love ourselves and who we are. April, you know what? I'm just really thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you for sharing with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you and all the work that you're doing.
Yeah. I'd also like to thank the listeners today for kind of listening in with us. And also, guys, remember that true success comes when you embrace what I consider the legit mindset, which is keep learning, growing, expanding, and transforming every day. In order to have great relationships, learn, you got to grow, you got to expand, you got to transform. And guess what? Transformation means that it's a continuous process. It's not a one and done. It's something we have to work on every day. And if today's episode kind of resonates with you, get in touch with April, especially when it comes to relationships and how to deal with them, and especially women. I think she kind of caters towards women. So please reach out to April. All of her contact is going to be below. And also, if you have some type of blind spot that you need for me to work with me, something that's holding you back, please use the link below and schedule a free clarity call with me. And let's unlock your full potential together. I'm Curtis McCullom. Make it a great day. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the show.